think we're right. Hello, hello, hello.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I can hear myself more than the normal voices in my head.
Awesome. That's really what we're going for. Well, excellent. We're not going to be referring much to you guys, or at least I'm not going to be referring much to you guys. This is my friend. We've known each other for many, many years. He was actually my high school roommate, or rather college roommate, but I knew him back in high school as well. So probably 11 years almost.
Yeah.
Almost 11 years.
And just so you know, I will be referring to you guys mostly personally, sometimes with, sharpened barbs. So just be ready for that.
It's in your favor. It really is. He's a good guy. I mean, it's just where it is. And so he and I are also old school gamers. Now I know that to this point I've mentioned video games to some extent, but video games is not the crux of the show so much. But it is a major part of my life as an only child or otherwise, as a child in a man's body, I guess. So anyway, so we're gonna discuss one of our more interesting hobbies, I guess, in the world, and that would be the world of video games. And we date back a ways. So establish yourself, if you would, please, as a gamer. 2 gamers, but also your kids and whoever else might watch this.
I play games. I have played Terranigma. That's really all you need.
That should say it. Yeah. Now, you guys don't know what Terranigma is. Many of you don't. So actually, would you explain? I know what that is, but it's because I'm a gaming collector as well.
Terranigma was one of the later RPGs released on the Super Nintendo, and it was, as far as I know, never released in the United States, but only in PAL and Japan territories.
Yeah, that's to say Europe specifically.
And it was, I believe, the 3rd game in the Illusion of Gaia series. Okay. I believe. Don't quote me on that, though.
And what genre is this, by the way?
It's definitely an RPG.
Which is short for?
Role-playing games.
Okay.
And it's sort of akin to best description I could give it would be a cross between something like Secret of Mana and sort of a Chrono Trigger sense of humor and style would be the closest. I mean, it's definitely in that style, not the Final Fantasy style or...
Now,
it's more of an action, continuous action instead of a turn-based RPG.
Okay, so not related. Role-playing games, of course, having a very close connection to literature, because you basically invest in a character. Is what
very
you do.
much, and often have significant references to the mythology of the culture or the person that wrote most of the game. Right,
and we were just discussing before you guys got here, religion. It often, not often, but sometimes even touches on religious elements and things that are more or less taboo in some cultures, but more accepted in others. Well, I mean, or just
even outside of gaming, and that's usually the taboo things make for the more interesting plots and or ideas, because people have a lot of background of their own to bring to a discussion on something like that. So you can sort of tweak people's perceptions and expectations around taboo subjects. I mean, so it's a good place to start from to write something.
You know your triggers, Yeah. Definitely. Now, of course, that begs the question, is Terranigma, in regard to literature, where would Terranigma find itself genre-wise, if you could break it down like that? You mentioned action, but you also related to 2 games.
As far as plot goes, I would say Terranigma is almost an alternate creation myth.
Okay.
Because the idea is that your character is from a group of people that live sort of under the planet.
Huh.
And you sort of open what essentially amounts to a Pandora's box.
Okay.
You're sort of the elves that take care of the planet, live underground.
The elves? I like that.
Sort of. You're sort of like the caretaker race, essentially.
I think of elves or monkeys making our world work.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And of course, hamsters.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to.
They've got to be doing something.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, you basically open Pandora's box, which lets evil out in the world, of course, as it should.
Yeah.
But you also...
Let me double check since I'm paranoid. Yep.
Yeah,
it's working. I'm just paranoid. Go ahead.
But in addition to unleashing evil, you sort of destroy your own society. And so in order to restore the balance, you have to go on a quest to the surface. And the game moves through several sections, but one of the main sections is that you go around to the different continents, essentially seeding life. And it turns out the life you're seeding, you put birds, reptiles on the various continents.
Yeah.
And the last thing you make is primates, and then you go back to sleep for several ages of evolution, whatever. And when you wake back up, you wake up with the monks in Tibet. And the first person you meet that's like a governor of a town is the Dalai Lama.
That's pretty awesome.
You essentially put life on the planet, and then
That's
come
kinda
back
cool.
after humans have established the continents and made religions and all
Yeah.
those other things. And you move around the world. Like, for instance, you meet the Wright brothers. That's how you get your ability to move around the continents, is you steal their airplane.
So you do meet real-world figures.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
In fact...
Is it time travel? I mean, is that a
well,
big part of it?
Your character is immortal.
I see.
Not so much that you can't be killed as much as that unless somebody kills you, you will live forever.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And
fair enough.
So, you know,
Fair enough.
then it makes the game interesting because you can still be killed by the enemies and whatnot.
Right.
But basically, your character goes into hibernation between great ages, kind of thing.
You're not so much immortal as you are non-dying.
Yeah.
Or undying, I guess. Yeah.
And so, you know, you start off in Tibet, then you move to sort of like the industrial age. So, I believe that part's in Europe. You go to America during like the Wild West period and sort of go through it, and eventually meet the Wright brothers. Sort of the end of the Old West, beginning of the modern era.
That's pretty cool.
And then you go to Japan, pretty much present day, which is kind of funny because you actually get to go to the office of the people that made the video game.
Awesome. You told me about that. Yeah. That's awesome.
They actually include themselves in the game.
Right. Kind of like
and they make fun of themselves very, very much. Like, the music department is not some like crazy genius Beethoven type character. It's three chickens at a piano.
Oh, nice.
Pecking on the keys.
Yeah. Nice.
The plot department is a bunch of monkeys at a typewriter.
Wow.
It's like, you know, the classic.
Yeah, nice.
They'll eventually make Shakespeare kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so like
bunch of crayons.
Pretty much every creative or writing cliche that could exist, they're saying, yes, this is our art department.
Yeah. Nice. I like that.
And there's all kinds of spoilers, like little ads for games that they're working on at the time they finish that game.
Very nice.
And so the game has a nice self-awareness, but in general, it's a very good game. But it also has very different presentation, which is what made it stand out to me as one of the better games, which is why I wish it got released in the
Graphically,
States.
it's amazing.
Yeah, well,
I
it
remember
came right at the beginning of the PS1.
Yeah, very end of the... Because it's on the Super Nintendo, or Super Famicom for the
just
era.
barely.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the tail end of that era, the 16-bit era, which of course is probably... It's it is certainly beloved. I won't say most beloved at this point, but it is definitely high on my beloved eras in gaming.
Well, I would say that to most gamers, that, you know, what is perceived as the golden age of like the role-playing game, like Final Fantasy VII,
of the RPG specifically,
that type of thing, happened early, well, fairly early in the PlayStation 1 era. But what a lot of people don't realize is that all of those sort of two-dimensional, cartoony RPGs that came out there, that style was established by the Super Nintendo RPGs.
Pretty much.
And so a lot of people got into gaming later, like for instance, that are younger than us, ancient fossils.
Yeah. Because we are so ancient in our upper 20s.
You know, a lot of them never got to play anything on the old Nintendo besides, you know, Zelda or Mario, like, you know, just sort of the staple games that everybody has a copy of. Nobody ever played the original Final Fantasy.
And they often played them on like the Game Boy or the Game Boy Advance or something else.
They've all been the reissues, not the original glitchy.
Or even perfect, because sometimes the emulation is what adds the glitches, you know. You got on Xbox Live Arcade, you guys recently got Speedball 2, which I've heard works very, very well, but it's still, everyone, particularly Europeans, who are way into it, because it was an Amiga classic. So the Amiga fans over in Europe are like, it's good, and they added some, but it's still it's got weird quirks, timing glitches, things like this.
Well,
so the native version, there's just something to the native version, I think.